Hello everybody, it's Josie here. I'm going to be doing my Contemporary-a-thon wrap-up today. So I took part in the 5th round of the Contemporary-a-thon. I think September was really my month for reading loads and loads of contemporary books because October, and it has just switched over to October, is definitely sort of fantasy, horror, Halloween, kind of that type of read month. So I wanted to get all of my, well, pretty much all, I've still got one more I'm currently reading, but pretty much all of my contemporaries out of the way so I can focus on the spooky stuff. So for Contemporary-a-thon, I read this lovely stack of books over here. I am going to go through most of them in depth, and then one I'm gonna not go through so in depth because I want to do a whole video on this particular author because they are probably my new favourite author. Well, at least one of my new favourite authors. So, okay, I'm going to stop babbling and carry on. So, the first book I read is this one over here. It's The Meaning of Birds by J. Robin Brown. Now, this book I picked because of the illustrated cover. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous cover. This is actually also a hard-hitting book, so it could have been used for that challenge as well. So what this book is about is the protagonist, Jessica, her father died. And ever since then, she has struggled with anger issues. So this is when she was younger, around 14. And she really struggled with expressing her anger and expressing her grief. And that really came out quite violently and quite physically. And she's been in therapy for that. And this is a few years later now where the book starts, and it really is her, I think she's 17 at the time, and it also starts with her girlfriend having died. So she's had these kind of two tragedies in her life, and the narrative of this book kind of goes before and after. So it talks about when her girlfriend was alive, how that helped her deal with her anger, deal with her grief, really kind of calmed her down and helped her. And then after her girlfriend died, she kind of, I suppose, goes off the rails a little bit again. So this book is, I think it's beautifully written. I love, so The Meaning of Birds, I love when you read it, you'll realise why it's called that. It's a beautiful reference. I loved going back and seeing the love story between these two girls, and it's so heartbreaking because you know that one of them has died. Right from the outset, I'm not giving that away, but it was a beautiful story. I think it's wonderfully written. It's a lovely book in terms of writing style. I think for me it's just the right kind of really lovely writing style, but not overly kind of flowery, and I think it tells the story well. I like the dual narrative of having the before and the after. I thought Jessica's main character is complex and interesting to read. She makes some poor choices, but, you know, she is also a teenager, so that's the time to make poor choices. It is, of course, if you're dealing with any sort of grief, there's sort of trigger warnings for that. But I really enjoyed this. I would give this a solid 4 stars. And it was a great way, if not quite a hard-hitting, sad way, to start my Contemporary-a-thon. What I then did is I enjoyed that book quite a lot. So then I wanted to pick up J. Brown Robinson's other book, and this is, J. Robinson Brown, and this is Georgia Peaches and Other Forbidden Fruit. So this wasn't originally on my TBR, but because I'd really enjoyed that one, I thought, let me give this one a try as well. Again, I think this is quite another cool cover. This seems to be the hardback Readathon. So what this one is about is your protagonist, and actually I've forgotten her name, and her name is Joanna, which I should have remembered. So the protagonist, Joanna, she's been living in Atlanta. Anyway, yes, Atlanta. They've been living in the city with her father. Her father is a pastor in a church, but he's very progressive. And you know from the onset, Joanna is gay. She's come out as a lesbian. And her father was fine with that, and she was very proud when she was in Atlanta. And then her father gets remarried. This happens right at the beginning of the book. And his new wife lives in Georgia. They live in a very small town. And they move to this small town. And her father sort of says to her, well, you know, I realise you're very out, and I'm okay with that, but we're moving to the small town. My new wife's family wouldn't really approve. It's a small town. We don't know what the reaction is going to be. Can you be a little bit closeted for the last year? So it's her last year of school, her last year before she goes off to university. Can you just kind of get back in the closet a bit? So thoughts. Obviously, I thought I did not necessarily like that stance. So this is another book, a bit like The Miseducation of Cameron Post, where you're talking about the intersection between religion and being gay and being queer and what that means, and you know, that acceptance in the religion, which I mean, I'm not religious. I find it fascinating to read books like this. They also make me angry in parts. I'll be totally honest. The attitudes, there's a lot of homophobia in this book, so trigger warning for that. There's also a character, so when Georgia gets to this town, she meets this group of girls, one of the girls in particular, and she meets this girl's brother first, and he kind of nicknames himself Petey, as in Petey Barnum, and he loves elephants, and you realise that he is, he's either autistic or somewhere on the mental scale of being slightly on the slower mental capacity scale, and the way that that's handled in the narrative, he gets teased such a lot and he gets called a lot of names, and every now and again the characters will get called out for it, but not always, and I just feel that wasn't particularly sensitively handled, and you never really know what it is, but he kind of gets called stupid, and I didn't particularly like that in this book, and I realised maybe the author's trying to make a commentary on that, but it wasn't my favourite thing. The love story was quite cute in this, so there is obviously a female-female romance, so Joanna falls for someone, and that kind of brings up all these issues about, well, she's promised her father she's going to lay low and be in the closet. She also wants to do a radio show, sort of a Christian radio show about queerness, which I think is a lovely element. But of course there's this dual problem of having to kind of go back into the closet. I love her best friend, she's wild and crazy. Back in Atlanta, and also a poor influence. And the other thing that I didn't necessarily like about this book so much was that a lot of the conflict in the book was because Johanna wasn't, like she wasn't saying what was going on, she wasn't telling the truth. And, you know, some of this conflict could have just been resolved with her telling people the truth and just being honest. And that's so I definitely didn't enjoy this one. There were elements that I enjoyed, so I would still give it like a 2.5, maybe 3. I originally said 3. I'm probably going to knock that down actually, now just thinking about some of the issues I had in the book, maybe 2.5. It was fun in parts, but it definitely did not enjoy it as much as The Meaning of Birds. Then the next one I read is this book over here. It's Going Off Script by Jen Wilde. I adore this book. I adored this book so much. This is an easy 5-star read. What I then did was I immediately read all of the other Jen Wilde books. So I read Queens of Geek and I read The Brightsiders. And I equally loved them. And I'm going to do a video on just Jen Wilde and their books. So I'm not going to talk a lot about this book, but just let me say, I love this. This is about the movie industry that's set in California. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It ties in with the other books. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm going to do a Jen Wilde video, so watch out for the Jen Wilde video, but just know, 5-star, adored this book. And yeah, I just adored it. I'll do another video. And then the other 5-star read in this readathon, oh my goodness, is this book over here, Summer of Salt. So this is the one that I had as beloved by the community, and I know Chelsea Darling loves this book. And I could not agree more. Definitely one of my favourite books of the year, Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno. This book is, so this is probably cheating on the magical, on the contemporary, because it's actually magical realism. So you have an element of, in this book you have a family, and your main character is from a family of women that all have some sort of magical powers. And you have 2 sisters. One got her magical powers really early on, and she can float, which is really cool. And your protagonist in this book, and I'm terrible with names. Yeah, Georgina, sorry. I thought it was George, and I was like, George, no, Georgina. Hasn't received any magical power. And they live on this beautiful little island, and every year a whole bunch of bird watching tourists come to this island to see a specific bird. And when you read the book, you'll find out what's special about this bird. And this summer, a brother and his sister come onto the island, and it's the last summer that they're going to be, so Georgina and her sister are going to be on the island because they're going off to university. And she there's a beautiful female-female romance in this when she sees this girl, when she arrives with her bird-watching brother. That is a gorgeous element. There is the most beautiful friendship as well in this, which is between Vera Elvira, who is one of my favorite characters that I've read this year. So Georgina's best friend is called Elvira. She is a goth. She is amazing. The friendship between these two girls is gorgeous. She makes some really cool, crazy ice cream flavors. I love Elvira. Love Elvira. And that is a beautiful element. The sister element between the two girls is wonderful. I love this kind of magical realism, slightly practical magic-y, family that has powers. And it is stunningly written as well. I think it is beautifully written. Again, this beautiful balance of lovely writing and wonderful storytelling. It's gorgeous romance. There's a mystery element to this as well. So you've got the romance, you've got the kind of inner turmoil of Georgina, you've got these friendships, you've got the sister bond, you've got the magical realism, and you've got a sort of a slight mystery element to this as well. There is a trigger warning for sexual assault in here, so I will say that. But I just adored this book, and I urge anybody to read it. It is just beautiful. So that was a wonderful way to end my readathon and also kind of usher in the more magical realm of October. And while I'm talking about October, I'm not going to do an October TBR because I'm taking part in different readathons, and I think I'll be repeating myself a lot. So I will shortly be doing a TBR for Spookathon, which is coming up, and then Spooktober as well towards the end of the month. But basically I'm just reading all sorts of spooky queer books. So I'll do some more videos, expect some dress up. But that was my wrap up for Contemporary-a-thon. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you've read any of those books, or if you have any recommendations, and I will speak to you all again very soon. Bye bye.